Start a brand. Build an empire. It's the Private Label Podcast.
All over the world, there's people building 6- and 7-figure brands, and they're doing it in their basements and their spare bedrooms, and that is really exciting.
Knowledge, power, inspiration.
I just love the show. It's the right information in the right format. It's perfect.
What we're doing here is not just building a business, we're building a brand. And if you do it really well, you are building an empire.
The guests are top notch. It's my favorite podcast by far. I don't miss an episode.
You see, I'm not the expert, but I can bring the experts to you each and every week on the show.
Now, here's your host with another game-changing guest, Kevin Reiser.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the show. Kevin here. Hope you had a great weekend, and I want to thank you for starting your week with Private Label Podcast. We've got a really exciting guest today, someone I met not too long ago, actually. But he's really crushing it on Amazon. And more importantly, he's just a great guy with a lot of great tips and advice, a big heart, and he's very willing to share what's worked for him. And so I'm happy to introduce you to him. I want to caution you, though, because Kevin King, our guest today, has a tendency to just over-deliver in terms of value and information. It's kind of like trying to drink from a fire hydrant, if you will. So you've probably had a drink out of the water hose out in your yard at some point. This is like trying to get a drink from a fire hydrant. And that's a good thing, by the way. It's a compliment. But I want to encourage you to go back and re-listen to the show multiple times if need be, or especially just the parts that interest you, because Kevin's going to share a lot of value with us today. And we're going to hear about the backstory of how he went from being a underground bartender to now making millions on Amazon. Please welcome our very special guest to the Private Label Podcast, Mr. Kevin King. Kevin, welcome to the Private Label Podcast.
Great to be here, Kevin.
Awesome. That sounds so strange. I think you're the second, or no, you're at least the third Kevin I've interviewed, and it always sounds so strange. But it's great to have you here, my friend. You and I met. I want to tell the audience just a little history. We met last month at a conference in Las Vegas, and it was so cool because my phone just went off and it said, "Hey, are you at this the name of the conference?" And I said, "Yes." And then I said, "Who is this?" And you said, "Oh, it's Kevin King," and blah, blah, blah. I was so happy that you had done that and so impressed that you had done the research and found, I think, an old press release or something. And I'm so glad you did, because it's been so meaningful to get to spend a little bit of time learning more about your background. And I'm honored that you're able to come on and willing to come on and share that with the audience. So thrilled to have you here.
Great. I hope I didn't scare you too much. When I sent that text message, he's like, "Who is this stalker? Who is this guy that's stalking me?" So it's great. It was great to meet you and chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how you came to be selling private label products. What were you doing prior to selling on Amazon?
I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. The last time I got a paycheck from someone, I was 17 years old, and I'm in my late 40s now. So I've had a number of businesses. I was in the television business, producing pay-per-view television, traveling all over the world. I've created a lot of products in the collectibles business back when baseball cards and trading cards were a hot thing. I was creating all kinds of high-end collectibles on that. I still, to this day, I've been doing it over 20 years, have a calendar distribution business where we actually produce our own calendars. We shoot the pictures and have them printed over in South Korea, and then sell those both directly to consumers through our own website and through direct mail, and wholesale into some of the larger calendar stores. And so that's been going for a long time, and that's kind of a cash cow and kind of almost on autopilot. So I'd heard about the Amazon and this FBA stuff, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I was looking the other day in my Amazon order history, and what I've ordered, and I saw that like in 2010, 2011, I'd actually bought a book on retail arbitrage and FBA selling on Amazon, and I probably read it or quickly glanced at it at the time and just didn't do anything. I was so busy because I had developed my other companies to the point where they were just kind of running on autopilot and kicking off some really good money. So I kind of took 5 or 6 years and just traveled the world. So I would work 2 days, 2 weeks in the office, and then travel 2 weeks.
Wow, that's
going all
cool.
over. So I've been to about 90. I've been to all 7 continents and 90 countries. So that was a very good experience, a very expensive experience, because I wasn't backpacking it and staying in hostels. But some of it was by myself, some of it was friends or family. I actually met my fiance on one of those trips when I was in Colombia. Just happened to meet her. She actually worked for one of the tour agencies at the time, and we met on that trip. So I did that for a while, and my dad said, "You're acting like you're retired." And so
That sounds like my dad. So let's back up though for a second, Kevin, because
Sure.
I love the fact that you said you haven't had a paycheck since you were 17, or I guess we should say a paycheck that someone else wrote since you were 17. What was it about entrepreneurship that was so appealing to you?
I've always liked to do my own thing. I don't like a boss. I don't think I would last 2 days in the corporate world with someone telling me these are the rules. I'm a rule breaker. I always look for holes in the system or a way to bend it to my advantage. I mean, I play within the big rules, ethically or whatever, but
Right.
I'm always looking for where's there a hole in the system that I can zero in on and take advantage to make money on. And so ever since I was my mom likes to tell the story. When I was 4 years old, she would take me to the supermarket, and I'd buy bubble gum for a penny, and come back and set up a little store in the garage and sell it to the neighborhood kids for 3 cents. So it's been something I've done my entire life. I had sold stamps by mail when I was a teenager. I developed a computer software program when I was in college at Texas A&M University for bartending, because I had all these friends that let me back up. What I did is I took a class on how to bartend, because you're 19, 20 years old and 21 years old, and you want to drink, and I was like, I want to know how to make all these cool drinks. And so I took a little class in that, not from A&M, it's like from a community college or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using water, and you're using to learn with, the bottles are real, but inside is just water. And I was like, screw this, I want to know what this stuff really tastes like. So I went out and I bought I don't know, 30 or 40 different bottles of alcohol, the real stuff, and set up a little bar in my room, in my college apartment and I had 3 other roommates, and we became instantly the hit of the neighborhood.
I bet you did.
Everybody was coming to our place, and I was like, wait a second, this is getting too expensive. I'm not going to foot everybody's bill here. So I actually developed this is back in the days of the Apple II computer. I developed a little software program in MS-DOS, that would basically would spit out recipes and keep tabs on everybody, what they were drinking. So
Wow.
I could every month or every week I'd say, hey man, Wolf, you owe me $26 or whatever, my buddies. And so, I've always been an entrepreneur. So it's just been in my blood.
So from a black market underground barkeep to Amazon Millions. I love it. I think we've got the name or the title rather for today's show. So Kevin, I know a lot of our listeners will really relate to that entrepreneurial spirit and just that drive to do their own thing and be a little bit of a rebel. What was it about the opportunity to sell on Amazon that 5 years after you first kind of heard about it finally made you say, okay, let me look into this more?
Well, what happened is after I kind of done all the traveling I wanted to do, and I kind of written out the money that I could write out on my last business, I was like, okay, it's time for a new chapter. I got to do something else. I got to go back to work and start. I built another business before, and I worked the 80 to 100 hours a week that it takes. There's no field of dreams out there, despite what all the pictures online are telling you on Amazon, that you can get rich and retire and buy the Lamborghini in 3 months. Come just pay $1,500 for my course. That's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Occasionally someone gets lucky and does hit the right product, and they're off to the races, and they do make good, but for the vast majority, it's total BS. So I was like, I'm ready to work again, and put in the hours to build a real business. I'm not looking for a get rich quick thing like a lot of people are. I'm looking to build a real business. And so I started three things at once. I went back to school, or I got my real estate license, and I was kind of like, I can sell houses. I think I could do really well and make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. I'm in the Austin area, and it's booming here.
Yeah.
So I looked at that. I started another little business that was doing 3D filming for real estate and buildings, where we would go in and create with a special 3D camera and create a walkthrough tour of a house or a building. And I started dabbling in online retail arbitrage on Amazon. It's like, okay, one of these three is going to make the most sense after I mess with it for a couple months. So I messed with each of them for a couple months, and it became very clear to me, based on my skill set and my background and what I liked doing the most, that Amazon was where I needed to be. And so after doing a little bit of retail arbitrage to get my feet wet, I'd been selling on Amazon before that, so I've had an Amazon. I'm one of the old school people. I get daily withdrawals on my Amazon on my Amazon account. Yeah. So every 24 hours, I can hit a button and take out what's there. I don't have to wait the 2 weeks. So that definitely helps on the cash flow side. But I'd been selling odds and ends on Amazon. If I had an old camera or an old printer or some DVDs that I didn't or CD, regular DVDs, and now I'm changing my collection to Blu-ray. So I'd sell the old DVDs. So I did some of that where I would jump on somebody else's listing and sell it. And I then I did I had an account with what's called Amazon Advantage, and we still have that. And that's a different program than FBA or from Vendor Express or Vendor Central. It's meant for media and books. So people that sell music, DVDs, and books can be in that, but I have my calendars in that business. So it's a whole separate account, and they issue purchase orders, but it's different than Vendor Express. I get a purchase order every Monday and Wednesday, and they'll say, send us 40 of this, 30 of that, 20 of this, and that ramps up into November and December because it's seasonal. It's a calendar thing. They're calendars. And so, by December, we're shipping in 2,000, 3,000 units a week sometimes to Amazon. It's fulfillment centers. So I've been doing that for a while, and then they pay you on that a month in arrears. So whatever you sell in December, you get a big check towards the end of, or a big deposit towards the end of January. So I was familiar with that side of it. But then when I was doing the online retail, I keep saying online, retail arbitrage, I got my feet wet on that side, shipping products in, how to sell essential work. And I would highly recommend that for anybody. Even though they're kind of clamping down on that a little bit now, and Amazon's really starting to put some more enforcement on some of the brands you can actually do that with. Still, if someone's out there listening and they haven't sold or done a private label product on Amazon, I would recommend just go out. It doesn't have to be much. Spend $50 or whatever, and buy a few things. And list them, send them in the FBA, and just get your feet wet of what you got to do the labels, what you got to do everything, what it takes to list, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a good experience. Before you got a lot more money at risk. With your own
way
product.
To touch your teeth for sure. How long did you do that before you realized, Kevin, hey, this is maybe a good model, but it's very time consuming. Let me look at this private label thing.
3 weeks. April of last year, I started, and I had a buddy of mine that was in on it with me, and we both quickly discovered, it kind of sucks going to Walmart all the time or to a dollar store looking for stuff. And then we bought some stuff from a liquidator here in Austin, and some of the products did really good, and one of them just it tanked. I didn't know how to judge BSRs. I did a little research up front, but I was got some tools from some of the people that were selling, the retail arbitrage type of software back then, and trying to figure out, so we ended up buying like 100 of these desk organizers, these wooden desk organizers for like $1 a piece. And I think we sold one. I probably just told Amazon destroy them. I don't care.
Right. Well, I think you lasted longer than I did, my friend. I think I made it 3 days, but the principle was the same. It is a great way though to understand the system fairly quickly because it is so much work. And so Empire Builders, great advice from Kevin King to look into retail arbitrage, if for nothing else than just to get a quick crash course and a very kind of inexpensive education, Amazon education on the ins and outs. So what was your first foray into private label like? Did you, I mean, you have just crushed it in such a short amount of time. I know where you're at today. Walk us through those first early steps in entering private label. How did you find the right product? Did you know you wanted to go into a certain niche? How long was it before you started seeing some success?
Well, I started this private label journey, and ironically, I listened to, I think I found your podcast when you were on like podcast number 4 or 5. And so in May of 2015, I was just trying to get as much information as I can. I was buying Kindle books on FBA. I was listening to your podcast and everybody else that was out there at the time. I think Ryan Daniel Moran and several other people, and everywhere I go in my car, I was listening, just trying to absorb as much information as possible. And I still do that to this day, even though, sometimes I'll listen to a podcast for 40 minutes and I don't get anything out of it. I'm always like, there might be that one little nugget, that one little thing that can make me money. So I do it still to this day, because when you quit learning, you quit earning. So I started doing that, and then at the same time, I was like, okay, if I'm going to go into this, there's 2 ways people can go into this business, in my opinion. One is to supplement your current income. So if you're working in a normal job and you want to supplement it so you have some travel money, or even as an investment. I mean, one of the smartest things you can do in this business is compounding. So if you have a listing or a living right now, you're making a decent living, and you want to get into this and compound your money, right now, there is no better way in the world that I know of than Amazon.com in the United States. And by that, I mean, if you can take $10,000 and invest it into a product and have some moderate success, I'm not talking you need to hit a home run out of the park, but you get a single or double, and you don't need to take money out of that to live on or to pay your daily expenses, and you can just keep reinvesting it. If you're able to take $10,000, and if you do the math on this, take $10,000 and compound it. So let's say you have put in $10,000, you have a 30% margin at the end of the day after your pay-per-click, after your cost of goods, shipping it in. And that's something a lot of people think they have a higher margin than they do in this business. So you got to be careful when you hear people say that they're making this margin. But you take the 30% bottom line margin, and that means that you sell that $10,000, you get $13,000. Well, if you just completely roll that over and buy more inventory and grow it slowly and organically, that initial $10,000 in 2 or 3, and I think I have to look at the math. It's either in 2 years or in 3 years, turns into $238,000.
Wow!
If you're able to turn it 4 times a year, if you're able to turn your inventory 4 times a year, now that model means you got to be growing, with it. So if you just stay steady, you're not going to have $238,000. It's going to be less. But the rule of compounding is powerful in this business, and Amazon's a great place to do it. I don't know anywhere else you could put $10,000 in and 2 to 3 years later have 6 figures. Now, the other way to approach this business, and that's what I did, is I need to make a living off of it. I need to pull money out. I've got expenses I got to pay, and I got a wedding coming up. I got a fiance. Women aren't cheap, so that I need money to pull out. But at the same time, I'm going to grow a brand. So I put a bunch of my money in, and then I got one other person that has a small percentage of the company. She's not actively involved in the day-to-day. She's strictly a silent investor. She put in some money. And I said, I'm going to approach this. I'm going to find out what works and what doesn't work. I have some money to play with. And so I'm going to create 5 different brands. A lot of people start with one brand and they say, just do your one brand, go slow. And that's great for most people that are new to this kind of thing. But since I've been in this situation, dealing with China, dealing with this kind of thing for e-commerce for a long time, I'm pretty experienced in it. So I started with 5 brands, and the idea was that some of these brands may just not work, or they may be too competitive, or they may be too much trouble. But at the same time, I'm also leveraged, so that if one of these brands doesn't work, I got 4 others that are cranking along. Or if 2 of them don't work, I got 3 others that are cranking along. I don't have one dead brand with 5 products that I'm like just trying to get rid of and starting over, figuring something else out. And at the same time, I want to do it 2 different ways. I want to do the traditional private label, where you go over to China and you find find something on Alibaba or one of the other global sources or one of the other sites, and then basically put your name on it. that wasn't enough for me because it wasn't differentiating enough. Too many people just do it the easy way. Let's grab something from China, stick it in a poly bag, stick our label on it, and go. No, I don't do that. I created a website for every one of the products. I created, it's a simple little website, nothing elaborate, but that helps you with the brand registry. And then I create custom packaging, like 4-color design boxes, and really nice so that it differentiates it when you put it on your images on Amazon. It's going to look completely different. And I have never had a problem with the hijackers in a year. The only problem I have is online arbitragers, or if you do a promotion out there and you do some giveaways, there are some people that they make that their business, and they go and buy these cheap, and then they come back on your listing and sell against you. I have had some of that, but usually they've only got 1 unit, or I think the most anybody's ever had is 6. So you just kind of got to wait for them to get on out of there. It might hurt you for a day or two, depending on your product, and then they're gone. So
let's get this straight, Kevin. You launched with 5 brands kind of right out of the gate.
That's correct. And so some of the private label stuff that I did, that's one way where I changed it up and I looked for differentiation. The product had to be different in some way. If it's an exercise piece of equipment, it had to have, some extra things in it. Not bundling necessarily, but it had to have some extra gloves or some extra straps or some extra something, so that when it goes up on Amazon, nobody else has the exact same product. And one of my best sellers right now, it's been selling for a year, is still the only one that's like that on Amazon. And the other thing I did is I created 2 products from scratch. I'm like, okay, I want to also create something that nobody else has. So I actually went on to Upwork and found some people that could do some design for me. I sketched out 2 different products on a piece of paper, and I'm no artist, just, rough sketches, and scanned it and sent it to them and said, this is what I want to create, these 2 things. And so they did it. I found a guy in Argentina that did one of them, and then I found a really good factory over in Shenzhen in China that did the other one for me. They did the whole thing for this really elaborate product in the cell phone space for $1,000, and they applied that towards my first order. They designed it, did all the CAD work. We went back and forth. We made 3D. There's a guy here down in Austin that doesn't live too far from me that has about 20 3D printers in a building he built in his backyard. He's just a 3D printing geek. So I went over there and had him make samples, from the CAD files, and then took them to the Apple store and said, I need to, use some of your products here to put on my thing and test with it. Made some changes, made another 3D print. These 3D prints are like $60 a piece, no big deal. And then we made prototypes that were working prototypes, and then the actual product. And so I did that with 2 different products in 2 different categories. And one of those took off, and last Christmas was selling $15,000 to $20,000 a day on that product. The other one is more of a niche, but I launched it in January. I mean, that process does take a while. I started that in May of 2015. One of the products I had in early December, and the other one I didn't have until January. So it's a longer haul, but nobody else has those products. And
it truly is unique. One of the things I love about you, Kevin, is, the passion just oozes out of you. So whereas most people like myself would kind of ease into this business model with one product, let alone one brand, you just right out of the gate saw the opportunity and saw the scalability of this and said, hey, I'm going crazy here. Do you ever regret that? Do you feel like you launched too aggressively, or would you do it over the same way looking back?
I would do most of it the same way. We did make one big mistake. One of these products, we ended up spending $200,000 to develop. But it was 30, the one in the Apple phone space, and it's not a case cover or anything like that, but it's something else. But that product that was doing $15,000 to $20,000 back in December, it was a product that was selling for in the $70 to $80 range. It was costing me $20 some odd to make. So I had good margins. I had a lot of money that I could spend, on pay-per-click to position in it. So I was spending about $10 per sale, not per sale off of pay-per-click, but per every unit that went out the door at Amazon. I allocated $10 per unit in pay-per-click, so I had the margins to do it. So it worked. But that particular product, the molding on it cost about $30,000, and then when you're printing, the factory's minimum was 3,000 units because it's custom. And at 20 some odd dollars a piece, that's 60 grand. So then you get another 30, 90 grand. Then because it was the holidays and I was late getting them out, I needed them for Christmas, I had to fly them over here. So I spent $18,000 flying them over here. But, I had the margins to do it. So in the end, the product was very profitable. But where we made the mistake is it was selling so good at Christmas that we're like, well, we need more. We ran out. Like 3 days before Christmas, we completely ran out of our first 3,000 units in like 3 weeks. And like, we need more. And so the factory's like, well, you should do like 10,000. We'll give you a price break. And we were like, looking at the numbers, like, we don't have, 10,000 times $20, that's 200 grand. I don't have 200 grand just sitting around. So we downed it to, we knew that Christmas and December and January are going to be higher than the rest of the year, but I didn't have this experience of a cycle on Amazon to really know how it cycles. And so we're at least 4 times, what normal sales would be. So let's take our sales and divide it by 4. And that's going to put us at, I forget what the exact number was, selling 20 a day or 30 a day or whatever. So we need to order 6,000 of these.
Right.
So we ordered 6,000, had some of them sent by air just to get back in stock as fast as we could, and the rest came by sea. So we could save, instead of spending all that money on shipping, and spend a few $1,000 instead of, tens of thousands. But what we did is we went out and because we needed money fast, we had to go out, and that's what nobody ever talks about in this business is if you're going to grow this and you're not going to do it slowly and methodically, you need money. That nobody ever talks about that in this business, that this is especially bringing stuff in from China with the lead times, you really need money. And if you have a successful product, you need even more money.
That was a big revelation for me, Kevin. And you say nobody talks about this. Let's talk about it. It was shocking to me. I had always assumed that the cash flow problems were going to be at the beginning, right? Just getting going and getting your first order in, and maybe in the early stages of the growth. But it really does scale, right? As your product sells more and becomes more popular, you need to order more, and your lead times get longer, and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what happened on this product, and people don't talk about that. And that's why I said there's 2 ways to approach this business when we started talking about this subject. Because if you're doing it as a passive investor, that's just, you already have your living and you don't care and you're going to grow it slowly and just compound, you don't need as much money up front. But if you're going to grow it quickly and you have a runaway success, you need a lot of money. And if you don't, you may not have enough, from your profits on the first sale to turn back into to keep the momentum going. And as everybody knows on Amazon, momentum is everything. So if you're selling, you come out of the gate and you're selling 50 a day, and you're like, I'm going to be out of stock, and depending on how many you order, if you ordered 1,000 units, I'm going to be out of stock in 20 days. Well, it takes 28 days just to get these made and flown over from China. Or even if you're dealing with the U.S., it might take you a couple weeks if you have a U.S. source.
Right.
So you have to to keep this momentum going, I can't just take my profits from the first order. I'm going to have to put in my profits plus additional money just to get enough to keep the momentum going. And if it continues going above that, it takes even more money to keep it going. Or you've just shot yourself in the foot and done all this marketing and promotions and giveaways for naught. Because when you run out of stock, if you're out of stock for very long, you're starting. A lot of times you're starting over. And so on this particular product where we spent all this money, you asked me if I had any regrets. Yeah, I do. I wish I actually, because when we ran out of stock at Christmas the last year, I had to go out and get money. And there's a lot of companies out there, from Cabbage to On Deck to Square Capital there's a whole cottage industry, Dealstruck, that has sprouted up to help Amazon sellers and online sellers do this, but they charge pretty good interest.
Yeah,
they're very expensive, and I needed money quick, so I had to go to even some of the what's called merchant cash advance people, like First Merchant or Pearl Capital, and you have to sign away your firstborn child, and if you don't pay them, they come and cut off your left toe, or you find yourself buried.
So that's why you were limping a little bit when I met you in Vegas. Hey, so what was the one takeaway from this? I mean, what was the one thing you'd do a little bit differently if you were starting over today?
I wouldn't have spent 200 grand on one product starting. I would split that between maybe 10 products or even a few more, and said, okay, we're going to take the same 200 we invested and do it over 10 products, because that particular product now is there's a lot of competition, and even though it's unique, it's kind of on the downwards end of its product life cycle. So if I would have and we made money on it. Don't get me wrong; it was profitable. But if I would have taken that same money and put it into, like I said, 10 other products and split it up, and 3 or 4 of those might have been duds, and I'm just waiting for them to sell out. But I might have 6 that are consistent or growing, and so I made a mistake there in that, and that's my regret.
Cool. So the cool thing though is that you learn from those mistakes, so you don't have to repeat them. What was the first big win that you realized? What was the aha moment where you kind of early on said, "Oh wow, this is going to be really fun, and this could actually work"?
When I saw that how much effort you put into it, it pays off on the backside. When I saw that the more time you spend optimizing your listing, the more time you spend figuring out which the best way to promote. I mean, I've tried everything off Facebook. I have my own Shopify site, eBay, sending traffic here, email list. I've wasted probably 30 to 50 grand in the last year just figuring out what works on my own money. I'm not listening to somebody else saying, "Hey, this is the way to do it." They may say that, and I may go try it. They're just selling a package or a program, but I try it. So I know now what will work and what won't work. So the aha moment is now that I know how to pick the products right, which software tools to use, what things to look at. And it's not what everybody always teaches. I mean, they teach it in simplified ways, and sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. It's a very analytical business. It's a very detail-oriented business, and you're rewarded for how much work you put in. Yeah, sometimes you may bust your butt, just like a football player busts their butt in practice, and you still lose the game on Sunday. But there's always another Sunday on Amazon. So you can't let a setback hold you back. So if you've tried this business and your first product just wasn't what you thought, or your second one, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again, because there's great opportunity out there. It's all what you put into it, and like I said, you just got to learn as much as you can. When you quit learning, you quit earning.
I love it. When you quit learning, you quit earning. And there's probably the favorite thing you've said so far was there's always another Sunday on Amazon. So you open the door, my friend. I'm going to dig in and ask you to share the goods with us. I'm going to just kind of pepper you with some different categories of the business. First of all, give us a snapshot. Where are you at right now? About how many SKUs and about how much monthly across all the brands are you seeing?
I'm doing in the low 6 figures right now with 9 SKUs across 5 brands.
Nice. Very cool. In just a year, right?
Yeah, a couple of those SKUs have are parent-child, so there's a small and a large, or something to that effect. And then there's a couple of those SKUs that I launched with last July and August. That's when my July of August of 2015 is when my first products went live. One of those is doing very well right now, and 2 of them were in the makeup category. And I made the mistake, back before I really knew what I was doing. I was in a hurry, and I looked at like the top 100 sellers, and I got into that category, and I was like, what the hell am I thinking now? But so I'm just letting those sell out. I put no promotion behind them. I do nothing. When a lightning deal comes up, offer, on Amazon now with the new system, I'll like throw them in there and just try to get rid of them. I've just sold off of one of them, and the other one I've got, I think, 200 left. So by the end of the year, they'll probably be gone. But I have a rule. I mean, I treat my Amazon products almost like stocks. I look at it kind of like a stock. I'm like, okay, let me see what's in my portfolio. Where can I mitigate my risk by expanding here or by doing this? And if I have a product right now that's making me, I use Hello Profit. I know you asked the tool question at the end of the thing, and I'll mention a couple of tools there that I use. But Hello Profit has made a huge difference because Amazon Seller Central just doesn't give you the data. And a lot of people look at that, or they have their little Excel spreadsheet that they've calculated. This is what I paid for it. This is what shipped in. And it's not detailed enough because it doesn't factor in your PPC. It doesn't factor in your returns. It doesn't factor in a lot of things. And Hello Profit, while it's not 100% accurate, it's the best thing out there. And I've tried everything that's similar to it. And I log into that 3 or 4 times a day to get a snapshot of what's happening. And I make adjustments daily to my listings sometimes based on what Hello Profit is telling me. This one's selling this, and I can look at the history and the curves. So I have a product, that launched last August that's, done $250,000, $300,000 of sales, and it's kicked off about a $75,000 profit at the end of the day after all said and done. So I don't need home runs. If I can get 10 of those products, I'm not trying to grow this into 500 products. I'm trying to grow it to maybe 20 at the most. That's enough for 1 or 2 people to handle. You don't need to grow it beyond that. But I want that to be a strong mix of 10 to 20 products that can easily be managed with a small team that are all kicking off that kind of money.
Right.
You know, if you get 10 of them that are doing even 50 grand a year, you know, and bottom line profit, I can live on $500,000 a year. I don't need to be the next billionaire. I've already traveled the world. I've already done most of what I want to do. I just want to live comfortably and enjoy my life. And so I have a product right now that's throwing off, according to Hello Profit, about $2,200 a month in profit, in bottom line profit. And I'm going to actually discontinue that product because I have a rule that if something in my mix, my portfolio, doesn't make at least $3,000 a month in profit, so that's 36 grand a year, I'm going to drop it and there's two reasons. One reason on that product, there's a couple other people that are kind of similar to me. I didn't differentiate it quite enough. And even though I'm selling and making money, there's going to be more people that come in and differentiate it. Now, I could go back and try to differentiate it a little bit more, but I let them run for 6 months. And so after 6 months, if it's not making $3,000 a month in profit, I discontinue the product because I figure that it's an ROI business. So whatever I'm putting into that product, let's say it cost me $10,000 to make the product over in China, and have it shipped over. Well, I'm tying up that money for 3 months, that 10 grand for 3 months, basically, from manufacturing, the shipping, to getting it in Amazon and selling. And so I can take that same 10 grand and put it into another product that's going to make me $5,000 a month, I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so I'll swap them out. And so
that's an opportunity cost, right? I mean,
exactly.
You're tying up your money in that inventory, and like you said, you can only do so much. So it's about picking the right stuff. Speaking of that, I want to kind of hit a couple of categories with you. Just have you give us your tips at what you've seen work for you. Let's start with product selection. How are you finding the best products right now?
There's tools that you can use, like Keyword Inspector, and you can see the volume of what's that's all estimate. From Jungle Scout to Unicorn Scratcher to Keyword Inspector, you have to keep in mind these are all just pure estimates, and sometimes they can be pretty close and accurate, and sometimes they can be completely way off. So I use them all to, and I look for patterns where they're kind of similar. And then I look for opportunities in extending a brand that I have. I've actually found that, I'm in the sports category, one of my brands is in the sporting goods business category. And I've actually done some testing where I will actually have the first product. I'm like, okay, let me introduce another product in this brand, and I'll go back and email all the people that bought the first one, because you can download your emails out of Hello Profit from sellers, not emails, your customers out of Hello Profit and download those, and then you can run them through. There's some software out there that you can actually get an email match on that will actually give you about 40% hit rate typically on those customers. So then you can email them directly, not through the Amazon system, but you can email them directly. And then plus the people that register, with the bounce backs in your product, register with their warranty, you have their email addresses there. So you can email those customers and say, hey, I've got this new product. Well, I'll give you a discount if you go buy it. And what I'm finding on two different brands is it's not very effective. It may be for some people, but I think it needs to be a very complementary product. If you sold them the left glove, they need the right glove.
Right.
Or something like that. And I think that is a better way to extend the brand rather than just having something else in the same category. Is one of the things that I'm changing. And so on looking for new products, I'm looking for things that, if I'm already sold them the left glove, now I need to sell them the right glove.
I love that.
So that I can complement those people. And so that's one of the things I use. And then I look through reviews. I look through my reviews. I every month or so, or sometimes it's every 2 months, I'll sit down. I just did it this last 5 days, and I'll go through every single review of every single one of my products. Even if I read them 6 months ago, I'll read them again fresh, and I look for patterns in there. And it's one of the best ways you can improve your listing, because at the end of the day, we think we know our product, but the customer knows it better, and they know what they want. And on all new products, on my email follow-ups, on my first email that goes out, I don't ask for a review. I don't ask for a feedback. I don't ask for anything. The first email that goes out 4 hours after they order is tips and tricks on how to use the product, or anything that customers have been complaining about. I've had 5 guys email me and say, how do I open this up? Where do the batteries go or whatever. I'll put that in that email, so they have that at hand in advance. And then I put a PS, because in any email or anything you send out, the PS is the headline is read first, the PS is read second. So I'll put a PS down at the bottom, and I'll say, I just have one question for you, and just take 10 seconds of your time. Would you mind telling me why you purchased this product on Amazon? And the reason I do that, and if you do, I'll give you a free gift, which is a discount on future orders. I send them out. But I'll get about a 5 to 10% of the people will email me back, and they'll say it was because of this, because it was the best price, or because I was looking for something that did this, this, and this. And the reason I do it then and not waiting for a review is because it's psychologically, that's one that they just bought the product a few hours ago, and I want to know why they bought it before they could hold it in their hands. Once they can hold it in their hands and see it, they have a different opinion. So once you've eaten the food at the nice restaurant, you have a different opinion than when you saw the advertisement and it looked really good. So I want to know, why did they come to my restaurant to eat?
That's a great point, Kevin.
So I will use those. I will look for patterns in that, and I'll do that for like the first month. And then, because I'm a little scared, Amazon always has this metric that they don't really publicize it, but the more the customers contact you, it kind of knocks against you. They have a little secret metric that if a customer's having to contact you, they don't like that. They want the ordering process to be seamless and no contact.
Right.
So sending a follow-up directly to them, I don't think affects that. But when they reply back, Amazon doesn't know I'm asking them this question. They may think, the guy's like, hey, my product
problem or something like
that. So I don't do it for very long. I do it for like the first month, and I get some data there. And then like I said earlier, I read all the reviews and I look for patterns, because the customers will write it in a language that other customers want. So I may have described the product in a certain way, which I think is good, and it's the words that came to my mind when I was writing it. But the customer can a lot of times say it better. So if you listen to your customers and you take some of their verbiage from some of the better reviews and put that into your listing, you can instantly overnight strengthen your listing and increase your conversion rate. And so I do that, and I look for patterns. And if I see the same, if there's 200 reviews and 10 people said the same thing, I'm like, man, I need batteries are included. I just had that on a product. I include the batteries. Nobody else includes the batteries. So I differentiate it in that way. And people are commenting in my reviews, oh, I love it. I could start to use it right away. The batteries came with it. I didn't have to hunt around the house to find the batteries or go to the store. So I didn't have that. All I had was in my description, I just had a little thing, batteries come with it or batteries included. I didn't emphasize that. So that immediately is like, I need to emphasize that point in my bullets, because that's obviously important to a lot of people. So I move that up. So you can get a lot out of that. So I do that. And then in doing that, you also see patterns of where there's opportunity to either improve your product or maybe come out with another product that complements it. And the other place I get product ideas is out of my PPC advertising, because when you first run those auto campaigns, Amazon will spit out and try to hit you sometimes everything under the sun to try to see what sticks for your product. Right. Sometimes in there, I have one of my products is in the kitchen category, and I ran auto PPC on it, and it was showing it for ads for a completely different product, completely unrelated product, another kitchen product. But I saw how many impressions it was getting. I was like, man, that's a lot of impressions for that keyword. Let me go and actually see, what the competition's like and the sales figures or estimates are like in this category. And I was like, holy cow, I need to do a product in that category. So I did, and I've launched a product in that category about a month ago, and it's selling 10 or 15 a day. And I did I think 20 to 25 giveaways on it is it. I've done no viral blast or Zon Blast promotions or any ranking positioning things or nothing like that.
And it's because it was so complimentary that it just kind of organically took off. Three really great tips, Kevin, from you on picking products. And the second one I love, the idea of messaging your customers, asking them for advice or asking them what the reason that they purchased your product. I just love that approach. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your actual listings. Talk to us, give us some tips. What are you using? What are you doing to kind of differentiate that's working well on your actual listings?
I'm not afraid to spend money. A lot of people, they're on the cheap. They're like, I've got only so much money to spend. I need to spend it in my product. You eat before your eyes eat first. So on any customer that's going to, and you're going to be judged by your worst image. That comes from my background in photography and the business, where models, for photo shoots for our calendars would submit to us, here's my portfolio of pictures, or here's my website. We're always looking for the worst image. where she looks the ugliest, because that's what we could get. When we shoot her and we bring her out and we spend money to fly her to the Bahamas or to wherever, we may get that worst picture. So we're looking for that. And so it's the same on Amazon. I believe on Amazon, the most important thing is your title. Second is your price, and third is your images. Your bullet points and your description are pretty meaningless, except for certain. I mean, let me back off. They're actually very meaningful, but they're meaningful more so you show up for the keywords and the search terms. And you'll have some of your anal customers that will read every single word you wrote, and you do need to have good copy to convert them or to convince them. Sure. But for the most part, and especially on mobile, a lot of people today aren't really focusing on mobile. That's the first thing I check on all my listings is how does it look on mobile? How do those first 200 characters in my description look on mobile? Because that's all you see on mobile. How do my first 3 bullet points look? Because that's all you see on mobile. And how do my images look? Because on mobile, you don't see the BSR, you don't see everything. And if you believe with the statistics that are out there, 60 to 70% of the people right now on Amazon are buying off of mobile. Even some of your worst reviews don't show up on mobile. It shows the top reviews. It doesn't show those most recent ones over on the right-hand side where you might have some asshole that gave you a 1-star review. So look at mobile, and how you appear on mobile is very, very critical. But then I'm willing to spend money on my images. And I think, Kevin, you took a look at one of my listings. I don't know if you've seen any of the others, but I do things differently, and I spend money. So I'll do a photo shoot. I don't go and try to get a stock photo and superimpose my picture in there. People know that, and it looks amateurish. I mean, you see it all over the place. I don't use my iPhone to take pictures. If I'm selling a dog treat, I'm in the dog space, and there's people that sell dog treats. They'll go in their backyard, and take a picture of their dog eating the treat. And it looks like caca. You may make some sales, and you may be happy with it, but at the end of the day, I don't know your brand from Adam. I don't know who you are. You're not some big science diet. So I have to trust you that I'm going to buy this and feed this to my dog. And you have a picture of, you took on your iPhone of the dog eating it in the backyard, and it's kind of dark and cringy, and the dog doesn't look too happy or whatever. I see it all the time, and it just baffles my mind. Or people that will take a picture of a simple product, and all their images are 7 pictures at turning it 10 degrees. In the picture. And it's like, okay, I don't need to see every 10-degree angle of this very simple product. Show me lifestyle pictures, show me it in use, show me, if it's a makeup product, show me a pretty girl that's putting makeup on her eyes or using the product. Or if it's a dog treat, show a really happy dog wagging its tail with the treat in its mouth. It's professionally shot and well composed. And it makes a big difference and gives the customer a lot of confidence when they've never heard of you. And people often forget about that. And then in my images, I do things that are totally unique. I use cartoons. On all my products, every single product except for the ones that are dying out, and I didn't do it on. But I'll actually have, off of Upwork, I'll have someone create a cartoon to show what life is like without my product and what life is like with my product. So it's a before and after kind of thing. And you could shoot this too. But I do it from a cartoon, because cartoons typically, where I got the idea is from Urza Firestone, who did one of his little training classes, one of his free ones. And he said that they found that on Facebook, cartoons outperform real pictures. So if you're trying to sell a woman some anti-aging cream, and you put a picture of an old woman and your picture of your bottle and your cream and say, come buy my cream, if you change that to a cartoon, instead of an actual picture, the response rate is higher. So I was like, I'm going to test that on Amazon. And so my second image on most of my products is actually a before and after cartoon. I went onto Upwork, found 2 really good artists. I wanted one woman and one man. And each one of them, because a woman will approach a product from a different point of view than a man, no matter what the product. So I gave them some basic guidelines. I want to show kind of this kind of scene. I want to show, whatever the guidelines are. I want to show, if it's a exercise thing, I want to show a big fat guy with a big belly hanging out, sitting on the couch with the chips and the remote in his hand, and contrast that in a split screen image in the cartoon with a guy who's buff and working out, and there's 2 hot chicks looking at him. So that connotates an instant message. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and kind of people want to know on your products what's in it for me. They don't care about your features and your benefits. Or your features. They want to know what's this going to do for me, or work. They want to project themselves using your product. And so that's stuff that I'll do. And then I'll use call outs. I'll use lifestyle stuff. So I think that's critical. And I don't always use all 9 spots. I used to use all 9 image spots, but I've actually done a little bit of testing, and I found on certain products, 5 or 6 works better.
Interesting.
As long as all
address all of those different points and have a nice representation. I love it. And I totally agree with you, Kevin, that most people don't focus enough on the images. And that's a huge area for potential improvement. And I love the way that you describe that too. I'm not afraid to spend money.
I mean, Amazon is like dating. Would you go on to eHarmony.com or some of these big dating sites, as you're scrolling through there looking for potential mates? You skip over the ugly ones and you go for the hot ones that appeal to you. And it's the same thing on Amazon in your images.
So Kevin's advice is make your products hot, right? Make your products sexy. Maybe make your products sexier than you are even. We'll go with that one.
Yeah, make them appealing
and
appropriate to your audience. I mean, you might have to change them. When you first do them, you think you know your audience. But then like I just gave on this, this battery is included. Example earlier, I'll probably go back now and change one of my images on that particular product to emphasize that batteries are included in the product. So it's not a one and done thing. You can always be improving and testing, test. I mean, there's software like Splitly and others that'll do it for you. You can do it by yourself, but test. It's a numbers and data driven business, and the people making the big money in this, except for the handful that bought the winning lottery ticket, are all about the data.
Yeah.
It's all in the data. And if you're not a numbers person and that's just not your forte, you're a creative person. Luckily, I'm both. If you're not, get someone on your team or hire it out or get your wife or your best friend or whoever that is, and they can make a big difference. It's all numbers.
Absolutely. So crucial. Kevin, I want to move on now to just the day-to-day management of the business. You're doing so well. You've built the business so fast that I know that there's lots of hats that you still have to wear. How are you operating the business? Talk to us about your team and kind of how you run the day-to-day operations.
I'm a one-man show. So I wear all the hats. So at this point, my goal on this, like I said earlier, is not to grow. Some people want to grow into a big office and a big warehouse and multi-millions of dollars. That's not my goal in this. I mean, you got to know where your goal is on this.
Yeah.
And if your goal is to travel the world and make money to travel the world, or it's to pay for your kids' education or whatever, you got to work towards your goal and not just be doing this just to be doing it because you're greedy or you see a bunch of dollar signs. So my goal is, like I said, is to get 10 to 20 products that I can easily manage by myself or maybe with one other person. I'm probably going to hire a VA to start doing some of my menial things, but I automate as much as I can, like the Hello Profit, all my bookkeeping. I use Xero for Amazon because it has the software A2X that actually brings in all your sales figures and puts them in the right columns. Breaks down.
Is that a plugin for Xero, or is that just kind of standard?
It's a separate software called A2X Accounting, I think, but it's like $49 a month. But I get daily disbursements, so as you can imagine, there's 20 Amazon reports every month, not 2 or 3 like some people have. So it can be pretty hairy, and they have all the breakdowns in there. Of this is your returns, this is your reimbursement, your cost. They're like 20 columns or whatever the heck it is. And so it automatically just imports it into Xero and puts them in the right spot. So I'll automate as much as I can like that. And then as far as my shipping, I ship from, I'm FBA, but I do have inventory. So my garage is set up. I have a whole shipping area in my garage, and I can still park my car in there, but I still have a whole shipping with the peanut elephant that drops peanuts and boxes.
Yes.
And I'll keep about 20 or 50 of each unit on hand for customer service or parts or whatever. Or sometimes somebody will want to order. It's out. I use Shopify and eBay both for additional sales, but that's automated too. So someone orders on eBay, it automatically goes to Amazon for fulfillment, and the same with Shopify. It automatically goes. But sometimes on Shopify, you'll get someone from Australia or Thailand or somewhere that wants to order, and Amazon won't fulfill that. So I'll manually ship that myself, which is no big deal. And then when a big shipment comes in of pallets, sometimes I'll have 18 pallets show up of a product. I have a warehouse, kind of like a budget storage kind of place, but it's a little more advanced. It's got 2 big bay doors, and it's like 1,000 square feet. And so I'll drop some product there, and the rest will come to me, and a buddy of mine, I'll call him and say, all right, man, it's six-pack time. And he'll come on over and drink a six-pack and sweat it all out, helping me in this Texas heat, helping me, label on each master carton and re-shrink wrap it. And then 2 days later, Central Freight or whoever comes and picks it up. That's not an everyday thing. Some people's like, man, you're crazy. You could be using your time to do, something else. But right now, I have the time. Like I said, I'm engaged, but my wife my wife to be is just finishing law school, so she's not here yet. So this all may have to change a little bit next year.
I was going to say, it'll be interesting after the marriage. I'll be curious to do a follow-up, Kevin, and see if you have enough room in the garage for 2 cars and if there's still a peanut elephant hanging from the rafters. I'm going to go with no. It's just my gut assumption.
Probably not. So, but that's why I'm trying to tune it to, and my products are not the traditional, most of my products are not the fit in the shoebox products. I mean, my heaviest products is 5 pounds. A lot of mine are 3 to 5 pounds. I don't have anything in the oversized category, so it's all standard, but some are pushing the edge of standard. So they're not, but there's less competition in that sandbox too. So that's one of the reasons, back on the product selection earlier, I look for areas where there's not as much competition, so it's easier to stand out without having to spend as much money.
Yeah, very cool.
But I don't mind, doing the shipping. It's not an everyday thing. It's a once or twice, maybe 3 times a month, and I get 2 or 3 hours of good hard exercise and get to drink beer with my buddy. So
I love it. I knew the 6-pack payment worked for friends helping you move. I wasn't aware that it worked for.
I give him $15 an hour on top of that.
Okay, well that's fair then. That's more than fair. So you're gonna have people reaching out offering you help with repacking your merchandise after this airs. Especially those down in the Austin area. Well, Kevin, I want to move on to our Empire Builders round. And then on the flip side of that, talk to you a little bit about kind of the direction you're headed, where you see things going, and some of your goals for the future.
Let's take it up a notch. It's time for the Empire Builders round.
All right, first question in our Empire Builders round. Is there a book that you've read, Kevin, that's had an impact on either your personal life, your business, or both?
Yeah, there's probably a couple, actually, that are almost on equal grounds. The World's Greatest Direct Mail Sales Letters by Herschel Gordon Lewis is a really good book on copywriting and how to reach into the psychology of the buyer. It's an older book, but a lot of the psychology and the way to write and to appeal to customers today is still valid. And the other one's probably How to Sell Anything to Anybody by Joe Girard. Those 2 books have probably had the biggest impact on me from a business point of view.
2 great recommended reads from Kevin King, our guest today. Empire Builders, if you'd like to check any of those out or any other book for that matter, just go to privatelabelpodcast.com/book. And our friends over at Audible will give you a free audiobook download. Kevin, next question. You mentioned tools earlier. Share the best tool recommendation you have with us.
The best tool is the one I mentioned earlier is Hello Profit. I have 3 in my arsenal: Hello Profit, Helium 10, and PPC Scope. Those are my 3 go-tos. I use a lot of others for this business, but those are the top 3 go-to tools for an Amazon seller.
Empire Builders, if you'd like a link to any of those tools or anything else we've discussed in today's show, just check out the show notes section over at privatelabelpodcast.com. Kevin, final question for our Empire Builders round. If the audience takes just one thing away from our discussion here today, what would you hope that would be?
You're going to be rewarded. There's no better opportunity than Amazon right now to make money quickly and to be successful quickly. It's the best thing that's probably come along in business in a long time. And you're going to be rewarded for how much effort you put into it.
I love it. You're rewarded for the effort you put into it. Short, simple, sweet. And by the way, I agree wholeheartedly 100% on both of those points. Kevin, I know that you and I can just talk for hours about all of this fun, exciting stuff. I hope you'll come back and share more with us soon. But for today, before we let you go, I just want to get an idea of where you see things headed. You just told us you feel like this is the best opportunity in business in a long, long time. I agree with that. Where do you see things headed, and what are your goals over the next 6 months or so?
Well, I see Amazon tightening the ship a little bit. I think it's going to be, while it still is a great opportunity, and people all the time say, I missed the boat. And yeah, I'm kicking myself for not starting, 3 or 4 years ago when I bought those books, or more than that, actually, because I could be positioned now and probably making a lot of money because there's a lot less competition back there. So I'm kicking myself, but it's still wide open out there. Yeah, certain categories and certain products you need to stay away from, but the world is a huge place, and there's a lot of stuff in this world that people need and want. And Amazon's not addressing every one of those right now, or they're not addressing, if they are addressing some, they're not addressing them well. So there's still plenty of opportunity out there. It's just going to be a little bit harder, take a little bit more money, and maybe a little bit more work than it has in the past. And if you're willing to do that, great things can happen on Amazon. And as far as my business, I'm hoping to continue to grow it. I'm looking to switch some of right now I have a lot of products that are more one-off type of products. You buy it once and you're done. I'm trying to switch my portfolio to more of consumables, because I think there's a much bigger and better market in consumables, and you can have a higher payoff there. So I'm switching some more of my portfolio towards that. And then at some point, I'll probably actually start teaching some classes or doing something a little bit differently than what other people are doing out there, and trying to give back to the people that are struggling or that are trying to get into this and just need some sort of direction that's real and truthful from someone who's done it and wasted their own money and done it, not someone who's just trying to sell a class.
I love it, my friend. Dude, this has been so awesome. I really appreciate Empire Builders. I know that you'll join me in thanking Kevin, someone that's just so generous with his time, his resources. And my friend, let me just point out, you're already giving back even without a formal class or mastermind or anything like that. So thanks a lot. Please continue to do that. And I hope you'll come back on the show soon.
I'd be glad to. Thanks for your time, Kevin. I hope your listeners enjoy what we've talked about.
All right. So what did you think of my discussion with Kevin? Wow, what an incredible guy, huh? This guy just eats, breathes, and sleeps selling online and Amazon and entrepreneurship. So inspiring. I just love to talk to and surround myself with people like Kevin.
You're looking for actionable tips and tricks to get into your own private label business or to take your business to new heights? Don't miss an episode of the Private Label Podcast's Listen and Learn. Each Wednesday, we'll tackle a topic to enhance and improve your private label business building skills. Look for new episodes each and every Wednesday and check them all out online, along with video tutorials and downloadable PDFs at privatelabelpodcast.com.